Barry, what were you doing in the past that was killing growth in the company?
The thing that hurt us the most was success because we became too complacent.
Yes. Well, we will hear how that held them back, as well as what Barry did to change it. Most businesses hit the messy middle growth stage. This is where the business is bigger, but the owner's working harder than ever to keep up with the growth and stay on top of things. Today, we'll hear from Barry on what he has to work through in the next year around refining standards and accountability so that growth doesn't keep pulling him into the day to day. Barry owns LABOV Marketing, Training, and Consulting. They transform companies by discovering their brand differentiation, celebrating and promoting it with their employees first, and then introducing it to the world. I'm Coach Tim Campsall. This is Self-Made as a Myth. Welcome to the show, Barry.
Thank you, Tim. I'm looking forward to this.
Well, hey, let's start at the beginning. Stepping into ownership requires a bit of a leap of faith. So, what made you believe I can do this, even though you may not have had it all figured out yet?
Well, I had virtually nothing figured out. I had been working at a recording studio, doing music, doing jingles. I found out that my boss was ripping off the employees at that company. I was not getting ripped off because I was going without money at that time. The company was in trouble. What happened was, and I'll say this very quickly, but it was a turning point in my life. I got up one morning. I said to my wife, I got to talk to the boss about this. I cannot work for somebody that's unethical. And she said, okay. And I walked out of our tiny little apartment because we were two very, very poor young married people. And my landlord walked by, would not look at me. And I thought that's weird because he loves us. We pay on time.
Yeah.
I go into work that day. I confronted the boss. I said, are you ripping off the employees and the musicians? And he said, yes. I said, okay, well, I cannot work for you. And he goes,
Yeah.
well, you're not able to leave because you'll starve without me.
Mm.
He said, "You'll never amount to anything." And I said, "Well, you know what? Maybe so, but I'm not gonna work for somebody that's unethical." So I left, got back home. My wife was in the kitchen crying. I thought, "Oh, somebody called her and told her." I said, "Hey, what's going on?" She said, "The landlord is evicting us because he got a divorce. We have to move out in 2 weeks. He feels terrible about, so we have no home. What happened with your day today, honey?" I said,
Wow.
"Well, I quit my job." So right at that moment, Tim, did I believe I could pull this off? I don't think I believed I could pull it off. I believed I had to pull it off. So
Yeah.
I created very, very low standards and said, okay, I have to do this much a month to survive. End of story is this. Within a month, that company went out of business and I ended up getting a lot of the business from those customers.
Wow. So, Barry, after the fact, many years later, what was the biggest difference between what you expected going into starting a business and what it's actually been like?
Well, I did not know exactly what it would be, but I knew that it would be a lot of work. So I expected a lot of work. I did not expect the challenges in dealing with people and personalities and how they got along with each other inside the company. That was a big surprise for me.
Yeah, it's people are interesting, aren't they? We all have different personalities and perspectives and experiences, and by gosh, we conflict with one another from time to time.
We do. And we, as business leaders, owners, we have to understand that we're working with really great people who, by the way, feel they're every bit as important as us or more, every bit as intelligent. And many times they're every bit as intelligent or more. But a lot of them do not want to be the owner or the leader. They don't
Yes.
want to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was rough for me too, because I thought, God, everybody would like to do what I'm doing. And they're going, I don't want to do what you do.
Yes.
So I had to come to grips with that too.
I've had that conversation with a number of times. But Tim, my team doesn't take ownership as much as I do. They don't care as much as I do. I'm like, yeah, and you don't want them to because you want them to be good, right? Faithful, loyal employees. You don't want them to go out on their own.
Yeah. And I think, I've offered ownership to people at my company and some have said, yeah, I'd love it. But in some cases they go, no, I don't want to do it. I come from an entrepreneurial family. I just want to go home at night and have dinner and not talk about the business. And you know what? I love that person. That
Yes.
person is amazing, and I'm happy that that's the way that person feels.
Yes. Yeah. There's a big difference between and not good or bad, but an employee mindset versus a business owner mindset, and right, being able to shut it off at the end of the day and go home, right? And a lot of people enjoy that. They don't want the constant thinking about the business and right stressing over whatever is happening. Earlier, Barry, I you shared about complacency being something that was interfering with growth in the past. So walk us through that. What was happening and what changed? What changes did you have to make to resolve it?
A lot of times, the clients that I work with, like Harley Davidson as an example, or Audi or Macallan Scotch, they're successful companies. And one of their challenges, and this is the challenge I had at my company, was success. Our company had been growing, and I'll share two minor things. Well, they're not minor things, two things that happened at the same time. Number one, we did grow, and it became very, very frustrating. And one thing I finally did on a given day was I brought my people into the conference room and we analyzed our clients, because some we loved, some we could barely get along with.
Yeah.
Some loved us, some didn't like us, some we made money with, some we didn't. And I thought we'd have like 20 different lists, and we really had two different lists. We had a list of the clients that fit us and we loved them and they loved us. And then we had clients that didn't fit us. And it was rough to end those relationships, but we did. But the thing I was alluding to in our intro is we went through a period where we grew a lot and it was really great, but I also hired poorly because we had desperation hires. We need to hire people and so we brought the wrong people on, great people, but the wrong job for them. And what happened was we became complacent. We thought we were great. We became more of an order taker than a visionary or a leader or a guide. And it took a while to really wake up to it,
Mm,
because a lot of my people were pretty happy with themselves. It's like,
sure.
look how great we are. And
Yeah.
our clients love us because we're great, because we're us. And so we had a wake up call and had to change that.
And working through that, just give us a little bit of more context. Like, how did you navigate through that?
Well, an example is this: when COVID struck, all my employees felt that they were in danger of losing their job or being laid off, because most of our competitors were doing that. And we huddled again as a team. Your podcast is all about, you don't do it on your own. So I look at it as a team sport. And I brought the team together and I said, okay, look, here's the goal. We're not going to lay off. We're not going to reduce salaries. We're not going to reduce number of days a week. We're not. That's the goal. But we've got to bring new ideas to our customers. So we're going to meet every single day at 9 o'clock for 15 to 30 minutes. And we're going to have all of us on the phone or on the Zoom meeting, because we were remote at that point. And we're going to discuss opportunities to bring the clients. And we did that. And we're doing that to this day. We have two of those meetings a week. We have dozens of opportunities that we're bringing to current clients, former clients, and prospects. And it is a constant focus. And I'll say this to the audience: I've had people that say, wow, I hate meetings and this is a stupid meeting. I've also had new employees go, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen a meeting like this. This is amazing. But I can also say this: it generates business, and it also lets people at my company know what we're working on. And
Yeah.
in some cases, they volunteer and say, hey, can I work on that too?
You mentioned some like it, some don't. I mean, that's just again back to what we were saying earlier of human nature, right? We use the DISC assessment as a way to
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
people's personalities, right? And so some people are more outgoing and love that brainstorming mode, and some would prefer to shut the door and think on their own, and that's okay. But right, everybody can benefit from an exercise like that, and it's just a matter of pulling out, the ones who prefer to reflect, right? Pulling the information out of them because they have just as much to add. They're just not as outspoken.
Right. I think it's incredibly critical to constantly look to grow. And that's a little different than saying sell, sell, sell. I'm talking about, how do we improve what we're doing with a client, what ideas can we bring to them? Because I believe the minute they go, look, if I turn to Barry and his team and I tell them what I want, why do I need them? Because I'm already coming up with the ideas. I want to be the company. I want us to be the company that brings those ideas. And I got to tell you, we bring a lot of ideas, and not to be funny, but at least half the time we bring an idea to a client, and later I hear the client talking about how they came up with that idea. And I'm going, that's great because they're our client. But I definitely want them to know in their hearts that, okay, I know where I got that. And
Yeah,
that's part of the value as to what we bring to a customer.
love it. So thinking back to that messy middle moment where you were in that complacency stage, what was the personal cost to you?
Personal cost was tough to sleep at night, worrying about things, letting down a client or letting down employees, fear of having to say, wow, we have too many people. If we don't turn this around, we got to do something. I feel very, very obligated to my team, my employees. I want to make sure I take care of them and customers as well. If they hire us and they're excited, I don't want it to be a situation where later they go, I don't know why I did this. So
Mm.
I don't want to let people down. Okay. To a fault, I don't want to do that. So the cost was a personal cost for me like that.
Well, congrats on, first of all, not having to lay people off and pivoting and working through that situation. That is awesome. So the other thing I mentioned earlier is around refining standards and accountability is an area of focus for you currently, and it's an area that needs to be fixed so it doesn't keep pulling you into the day to day. So give me some more context on that. What's happening and how is it affecting you?
Well, I'm a very, very old person that's been in business for 40 plus years. So there gets to be a point, whether it's in business or whether it's how to play better golf, that you can't redo your swing. You can't redo everything you're doing in business. You can't. It's too much uproar. It's too much ruckus. And there's no guarantee that it's going to work. Right. So I've looked at, and my theme, I try to have a theme for every year of my life. My theme this year is one word, and that's refinement. I would rather refine how my company is looking at our hiring process, how we are looking at new business or growth, as an example, than bring somebody in from outside or completely upend things. So I think the delusion and intoxication of the brand new concept that we're going to do, and we're going to throw out everything else we did and we're going for it. I mean, that sounds so great, but it's normally not going to work. So that's what I'm doing. I believe that my people at the company, and again, this relates to the name of your podcast, my people know what to do. I'll give you an example. We have some small teams that are working on certain challenges. Okay. And I was talking to the group, and it was, I think, 3 or 4 of my people. Okay. And they're going, yeah, I don't know, Barry. What do you think you should do? What do you think? And I go, you know what? If I add up the number of years you have worked at LABOV, at my company, I'm not talking in the workforce,
Yeah.
LABOV itself, I said, it's almost 100 years, the 4 of you. It's 96 years. I
Wow.
said, you 4 have 96 years of experience. I said, I bet you can figure this out better than I can.
Mm.
And that's what I want. I want people to figure things out and not worry about, well, gee, would Barry do it this way? Well, who cares? What I do want them to do is to figure it out and do one thing, look inside and say, okay, I believe in this. And if they believe in what they're doing, and I tell them this, I'll support you. If you close a deal with a client or on a project, you're not going to hear from me that, well, wait a minute, you should have done this and that. You're not. You're going to hear me go, congratulations. And if I think there's something we could have done differently, we'll talk about that some other time. But we're going to celebrate that you got that done. So I got to get out of those things. And the thing is, I read a lot of articles about, these terrible entrepreneurs, and they're egotistical and they need to be in every decision. I don't want to be in decisions. I don't. I did not want to be a business owner. I don't want to be a boss. So I am thrilled
Yes.
when somebody says, "Hey, I got this. We're moving ahead." I go, "Great." And then we celebrate it.
I love it. One of the things you just talked through is the idea of if we make multiple 10% improvements, right?
Mhm.
So the refining, right? That's
Right.
often almost always significantly easier than making 100% improvement, right?
It is. If the audience just realizes this, because it is absolutely what you just said, Tim. If we can improve one area by 2%, that affects another area by about 3%. And if we can improve a little bit in another area that affects those by 2%, it's not 6 or 7%. It's like 40% improvement because all things start to fall into line. It's the idea of, I look at a lot of things and get a lot of advertisements going, improve your business, multiply it by 10, by 100. Okay, I'm going to say something crazy. I don't want to increase my business by 10. It would kill my beloved employees. It would kill them. And I would lose the intimate relationship with my customers. I don't need 10x or 100x. I need 0.02x. That's what I need.
Well, and here's the interesting thing from a mathematical standpoint, when you make a 10% improvement in 5 key areas of the business, it ends up being a 60% improvement to profit. So
Exactly. Right.
it doesn't take significant game changing and completely overhaul the direction of the business and right what you said earlier of right don't wreck everything that you've built and it's like make some improvements here and some tweaks and adjustments there and right there's a multiplier effect to the bottom line.
And it's easier to do this if you upend everything. You can't sleep at night. You wake up the next day, you got to be a different person because you
Yeah.
have to behave in a different way.
Yeah, right. So going back to the you just mentioned, hey, I don't want to be in the weeds. I want my team to be. What's the negative? Because you also mentioned, hey, some entrepreneurs like to do that. What's the negative? What's the cost to the business? What's the cost to you if you're constantly being pulled into the day to day?
Well, most people that have been in a business, let alone have led or started a business, have talents. And many of them have talents like they might be creative, or they could be a phenomenal engineer, or they have brilliant manufacturing knowledge. It's just amazing. Well, when they get into the weeds, they don't get to use those talents. So it's kind of like you're a great musician, but you never play the piano anymore because you're too busy, cleaning the house or something. And I think the downside is, and it's what my book, The Power of Differentiation, is all about. That's what when you in the intro you talked about what my company does, but you identify what a company does that's unique. Okay, it's something they're doing. You don't create a brand new thing. It's something they're doing. Okay, it's the same thing for the leader. That leader needs to understand what she or he do that's so unique. If you're not doing that often, daily, you're robbing the business. And you're
Yeah.
also robbing your employees because they're going, "Oh boy, here comes the boss again. He's going to be in the weeds doing such and such." I know a really brilliant engineer who runs a manufacturing company, and one of his employees talked to me once and said that every night what he did is he would go around the office after everyone left and he would take the tin cans, the Pepsi and the Coke cans out and place them on the desk of all the employees because he wanted them to recycle. And if they threw them away, he did that. Now, first of all, they knew who did it. Second of all, why is he wasting his energy on that? He's a brilliant engineer.
Yeah.
Plus, people get kind of fed up with that kind of thing and they're thinking that's what's important to him. What should be important is his next genius engineering breakthrough.
Yeah. I've had this chat with a lot of folks. So one of the ways I break it down for them so that they grasp what you're just explaining is okay. So let's assume you're $1 million business. Divide that by 2,000 hours, which is the average yearly work. Okay, so that means that you're worth $500 an hour. So why are you doing those 25 and $50 an hour jobs?
Exactly.
Because to your point, right, if their magic is the growth or the new idea, right, that's the next $500 an hour project or initiative. So
Well,
delegate the rest.
One great idea in my business might be worth 1,000,000 or $2,000,000 in my business. So, should I be pulling tin cans out of the trash, or should I be daydreaming about a new idea,
Yeah.
right?
And more tangibly, right, to build on what you're saying, right, should I be doing the paperwork, right, should I be doing the bookkeeping, should I be doing the invoices, like in the
Right.
very beginning, yes, right, in early growth, if it's just you, absolutely, but in this messy middle stage, absolutely not, right, we've got to get rid of that, we've got to delegate it or outsource it so that the owner can free up their time to do owner stuff.
I agree. And that's why when I said earlier refinement, look, I'm not going to go do the invoices, but if we need to look at how we are doing them internally at my company, let's put a team of people that have 30 to 90 years experience together and they can go refine it so that, our invoices, instead of them being a C plus, maybe our invoices turn into B pluses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's progress.
Yes.
But it should not be me going through invoices every night till 10 PM.
Yeah. Barry, what lesson do you wish that you'd learned earlier that would have made an impact in terms of not costing you or not costing the company?
Thing that I struggled with in the beginning was I'd be in meetings and I'd have these thoughts and I would think, I should just keep my mouth shut, I
Yeah.
don't wanna shake anything up. And in retrospect, when I have had these different thoughts, these breakthrough potentials, I need to share them. Now, you can share them in a nice way. You don't have to blurt them out and say, "You people are all out of your mind," but you can say, "Hey, here's a different thought. What about?" So it's trust my instincts. There's a concept called pattern matching. And what it means is you're observing a situation and you go, that reminds me of something else I did, maybe in a different industry or whatever. That might apply here. And so for me, I look at situations and I try to apply things I already know work to maybe a different industry or a different client. So in retrospect, I wish I could have spoken up earlier, sooner, and with more courage.
What again? It's more of a reflecting backwards, but the biting your tongue. What did that end up costing?
Cost me opportunities, probably cost, the respect that I wanted to get from a client. They thought, "Hey, he's a nice guy, but we're gonna go with these other people who are, they're experts," where I would have crushed those other guys if I just would have stepped up.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate the transparency. We know self-made is a myth. You've mentioned it a couple times. So who are the three people, Barry, in your journey that you wouldn't have had the success that you've had without them, and how did they help you?
You know, I knew that question was coming, and first of all, I had a trouble thinking of only 3. So, but I do have 3, but the first thing I would say before I answer that is I never looked at myself as the leader. I didn't look at myself as the boss. I heard one of my early employees introduce me to someone as her boss, and I was stunned. I was just Barry. I didn't know I was a boss. Okay. So I look at every single person as someone I can learn from. Everybody. I have a newsletter that I put out, and I'm writing a story right now for it, and it's all about checking your ego at the door. Being able to ask people for help rather than say, I'm going to do this on my own and fail. So I look at everybody like this, but the 3 people, number one, my mother, who tried to brainwash me to love business because her father was a great businessman and a great salesman. And I remember growing up saying, I hate business. I don't want to hear about it. So my mom, so it is proof that brainwashing works. My dad told me I could amount to anything I put my mind to. And I mean, since I was like 3 years old, he told me this. Okay. I didn't even know what put your mind to meant,
Sure.
but I thought it meant that if I really try hard, I can do something I want to do. And then the most important person has been my wife, because coming up with kind of a dysfunctional family like I had, my wife unconditionally supported me and never once, this is hard for entrepreneurs to believe, she never once said, honey, don't you think we should make more money? Honey, don't you think you're working too much? Honey, don't. Never. She supported me from day one and has been my partner in life and business. So those are the 3.
What's your wife's name?
Carol.
Fantastic. Yeah, having that support at home is a big deal, right?
It's everything, and I feel bad for people who don't have that, and I feel bad for people where one spouse is yelling at the other because somebody's working too hard or somebody doesn't have a good enough job and isn't making enough money. I mean, it's like, "Oh my gosh." So I've been fortunate with Carol because I never went through that kind of situation.
Well, thank you, Carol, for all of the love and support. Barry, in your journey, when you've had times that you felt stuck or overwhelmed, what belief about figuring it out on your own held you back? And then what changed once you allowed an outside perspective into it?
I constantly turn to outsiders for help. I did it in my early days when I could not sell. I didn't know how to sell. And I heard there was this guy named Mike Huddleston and he sold at a TV station. I called him up out of the blue and I said, "You don't know me, but I'd sure love to learn from you." And he goes, "Okay, yeah, I don't know you. What are you doing for lunch today?" And he helped me. I said, "Why?" He said, "Because nobody asked me for help." To this day, he and I are great friends. Okay. I turn to people, whether they're clients, whether they're advisors, whoever, I want to learn. So I only do two things when I'm stuck. I write it down. I try to write down what's bothering me and what am I doing about it, just so
Mhm.
I see it. I'm visual. I got to see it. Often come back to it a couple days later or a month later, and I'll go, "Wow, I got a lot of this done." Or, "Wow, why was I worried about this?"
Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing is I turn to people. I humbly and with great appreciation ask for help, period. And I thank people. I remind them of how much they've helped me. I don't take them for granted.
Sometimes I hear folks worried about, bothering other people, right? Your example of, you basically cold called someone and asked for help. What tip or advice would you have for folks who are reluctant to do that?
I think you do what I said I just did with this brilliant guy named Mike Huddleston, and that is you pick up the phone or you email, whatever you want to do. You reach out and you're humble and you're gracious. You say, "If you could give me 15 minutes, or if I could buy you lunch or dinner, whatever you feel is appropriate, but I would love to learn from you." And that you're respectful and you're appreciative and you give them a follow-up afterwards like, "Hey, I learned from you on this. I really appreciate this. Is there any way I can help you?" That's how you do it. And you know what? 98% of the people will go, "Yeah," because just like my friend, nobody asks people like this for help. I get asked every once in a while, and I'm thrilled to help somebody. I feel that might be the highlight of my day or my week. I'm
Yeah.
happy to help.
Well, Barry, you're going to be getting a lot of calls now after we put this on the air.
All right. I'm happy to do it. I do get when I'm on podcasts, I will get people reaching out. I get students. I do a lot of work with Central Michigan University. I do their MBA program. I do a lot of lectures, and they'll email me, text me, go through LinkedIn and say, "Hey, what about this? What about that?" And I help them. It's my gift back to them, and if they take my advice, great. But if they don't, I'm still happy. I at least tried to help.
Yeah. Yeah. I love your pay it forward mentality, right? Of
Mhm.
people have done it for you, you do it for others. And hey, it's lonely at the top, right? Being a business owner and having questions and doubts and being able to reach out to somebody is a big deal.
When I started my business, there were 3 really old guys, so I was in my mid-20s, really old guys at different companies. I mean, they had to be in their mid-30s to late 30s. They were old guys, okay? And for some reason, and I don't really know why, each of them liked me and sent me some sort of business or helped me. And I never understood why. They were very nice guys. 2 of them knew each other and could not stand each other, so it wasn't like they were buddies, but I they helped change my life, and I thanked them and made sure I helped them, and I remember them when I'm trying to help other people.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing, Barry. It sounds like there's been a lot of people that have blessed you along your
Mhm.
business owner journey. If they were all on the show today, what would you want to say to them?
I wanna say thank you. Thank you for believing in me, putting up with me and my enthusiasm, and giving my company a chance to help you in your journey.
Well, Barry, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Tim.
If you're stuck in the messy middle, there's a way through it and you don't have to figure it out on your own. Our 2-week training and coaching trial helps get clarity and direction. And the link is in the description below. If this conversation resonated, like it, comment on it, subscribe so that you don't miss our next episode. And everyone, I will see you next time.